start. It's been a year at the dawn of the summer, have some kind of a press conference on issues in children. I know I've talked to you before about unsafe sleep. I've talked about children in swimming pools, and we've talked about children left in hot cars. And so an issue that I want to deal with now has to do with guns and children and gun safety. And let me just start out by saying, let me introduce who I have here with me. To my right and your left, and I'll have her say her name and spell her last name for you.
Abigail McIntyre, N.
Parisa Kiani, Parisa, last name Kiani.
Robert Spada, I'm the Deputy Chief of the Special Victims Unit, last name spelled Spada.
Jerry Dorsey IV, I'm the Chief of the Trial Division, Jerry Dorsey, Roman numeral IV.
Karen Goldfarb, I'm a lead attorney in the Child Abuse Unit, and it's Karen with a C-A-R-I-N, Goldfarb, Goldfarb.
Thank you. Okay, everybody in this universe knows that Detroit has an issue. Detroit and Wayne County have issues, huge issues with children dying from firearm use. And no matter how much we sugarcoat it or say it's not so or try to cover it up with other stats about crime going down, it still remains an issue that we have to address. But today I want to talk about, as I said a few moments ago, about a subset of that issue. And that issue is kids or children finding guns, using in their homes and cars, and usually these guns are legally owned and possessed. And these children using these guns to either kill or injure themselves or kill or injure other people. As I said, often these guns are legally owned. They're often unsecured. And most of the time, children know where they are, even if parents think that they don't. And all of this is totally and completely and absolutely preventable. I did a lot of research going into what I wanted to say to you today, and I was going to regale you with facts and figures and statistics, and then I decided just to give you one stat to make the point that this is a public health issue and not just a crime issue. In Wayne County alone, as you can see from the materials that we passed out to you today, in the last 17 months, 8 children have killed and seriously injured themselves and others with unsecured firearms, and that is one is too many. As I said, these incidents are preventable if adults would simply do what they should know they should do, and it takes seconds to secure and unload a firearm. Now, some people don't have firearms in their homes, and this does not mean that our children are immune from the situation. I myself, who have 2 7-year-olds, ask the people whose homes my children go to, do you have firearms in this home? Where are they kept? Are they secured? How are they secured? And in some cases, I want to see where they're kept and how they're secured. So our children are not only immune, are still immune, not immune to this, even if no guns are present in their own home. And no matter how much individuals, parents, and others educate their children about gun safety, children and teenagers are somehow magnetically drawn to firearms. I think we've probably all seen, and if we haven't seen, we should take a look at the Dateline piece. It's about 5 or 6 parts long, where Natalie Morales is the correspondent. And she usually has these different scenarios with kids finding guns. The parents are usually behind the screen, and they're watching, and all of them swear up and down that their children will not touch these firearms because they constantly and consistently let their children know that they should not. And of course, in almost all cases, with an unloaded, of course, firearm laying there, the child will pick it up and point it at themselves, pretend to shoot it, and still could do harm if that firearm was loaded and unsecured. So today I want to talk about several things before I talk about several charges that we're going to be announcing today. I'm going to be taking place, and none of this is rocket science. Some of these are original ideas, most are not, about what we should be doing about kids and gun safety. What I'm going to be doing in the very near future this summer is calling on the heads of all our major hospitals to come to a meeting with me. Those of you who have children who know that you go with them every year, and you go to the pediatrician appointment, there are a series of questions that are asked. Those questions are, what does your child eat? How much do they sleep? Is there a gun in the home? And is there usually a firearm in the home? And is there a smoke detector in the home? Now, maybe because I've always checked, no, I've never had a counseling session with any of these pediatricians. But I'd like pediatricians to be able to take much more action and notify, even just for a few minutes, whether it's passing out a pamphlet or whatever, educating parents on the dangers of guns being at home. Also, we think we need to have legislation that deters irresponsible gun storage practices, criminal penalties if an adult gun owner negligently leaves a gun around and is accessed and used by a child, resulting in injury and or death. We should have more mandatory, and again, it's not rocket science, more mandatory gun ownership education. I know that when you go to a CPL class, there's about 8 hours of instruction, and a lot of that instruction deals with gun safety, and specifically gun safety as it relates to children. But when you own a gun in your home, there is no such mandatory requirement that anyone have any education about, even though it seems obvious, about gun safety. And I think there should be that mandatory gun ownership education classes for adult owners of guns. And as a country, I really think that we need to take a serious look at the existing emerging technology for chamber load indicators that can tell someone when a gun is in the chamber, and also smart gun technology that's really bursting on the scene that gun manufacturers so far have rebuffed. That means a gun can only be fired by its owner, and a scientific evidence is used, like fingerprint analysis or palm print analysis are used, as well as other technology. It cannot be fired by anyone other than the owner if found by a child. And of course, there are public safety campaigns that we know work. Of course, several cities, including Detroit, have had buyback campaigns, gun locks that only work if people use them, and all of these things have been tried, but they need to be continued to be tried, and more needs to be done. One of the case examples that you have that we've passed out to you today is the Dalen Head case that we filed back early this year, and is coming up for a jury trial on July the 5th of 2016. And this really is an example of the most egregious set of allegations, again, allegations, that we have seen in recent memory. The facts in that case, the allegations, I should say, in that case, were the defendant knowingly kept a loaded, unsecured, sawed-off shotgun in his bedroom closet on the floor in plain sight with the closet door open. His room was also where the video game console was located, where all the children played the video games. His daughter, allegedly, aged 10 years old, pulled the shotgun out of the closet, so clearly she knew where it was, and mimicked the activity on the video game that she had just seen her brother playing with. The gun discharged, killing her 9-year-old brother. So again, that's up for, those are simply allegations at this time, let me emphasize that, but it's up for jury trial in this building on July the 5th. I want to announce today's charges, and I believe we've passed out a press release, but today we are charging 2 separate cases dealing with this issue. One is a grandparent charged in a fatal shooting death of a young girl, Mariah Davis. We have charged Frederick Davis, age 65, and Patricia McNeil, also 65, both of Detroit, in connection with the fatal shooting death of their grandchild I mentioned a minute ago, Mariah Davis, who was 5 years old at the time of her death. On May 11th of this year, Davis and McNeil were babysitting Mariah and her brother along with a neighbor's child in the 19700 block of Oakfield in the city of Detroit. It's alleged that at midnight, Mariah went into her grandparents' bedroom and retrieved the handgun, so obviously the facts will show that she knew where it was, from under a pillow, took it to another room and shot herself in the neck, and Mr. Davis went into the room and observed the injured child on the bed and retrieved the gun and called 911. The child was fatally injured. We have charged both of those defendants with 1 count each of involuntary manslaughter, 3 counts of child abuse in the 2nd degree, and 1 count each of felony firearm. Davis has also been charged with felony possession of a firearm, and they're expected to turn themselves in and be processed and arraigned at 10:30 a.m. on Thursday, May the 26th in 36th District Court. The second charge that we are charging today is about a great-grandfather and mother of a 4-year-old child in a non-fatal shooting incident. Joseph Williams and Audrey Drury, both of Detroit, have been charged by us in a non-fatal shooting on November the 11th. It took place last year on November the 11th of 2015 at about 7:45 a.m. at their home on the 14,000 block of Terry Street in Detroit. Miss Drury's 4-year-old son found a handgun belonging to his great-grandfather, Joseph Williams, and shot himself allegedly with the handgun, injuring his hand. The victim was treated at a local hospital and survived his injury, thankfully. It's further alleged that Williams and Drury had knowledge that the unsecured firearm was in the home and accessible to the 4-year-old child and his young brother. They have both been charged with child abuse in the 2nd degree and felony firearm, and they are also expected to turn themselves in and be processed and arraigned at 10:30 a.m. on May the 26th of 2016 in 36th District Court. Again, we hope that this will highlight the issue. I'm hoping that those within my hearing voice will actually do something about it, and I hope to work with the Michigan legislature as well as the heads of the major hospitals and pediatricians in this county to hopefully find other ways, and the ways that I've mentioned, of helping us seriously decline the issue that has taken place and caused us to have 8 children injured or killed in the last 17 months. If you have any questions about this case, I'm happy to take any questions from you. These cases, I should say.
I'm trying to understand the distinction between the manslaughter on one case, or the negligent homicide manslaughter, versus second-degree murder in the head case. Like, what takes it up to that second degree?
The facts of the case and how egregious the alleged facts are in the case, and the fact that the gun was in plain sight, all the things that we mentioned in terms of the allegations, as opposed to another fact scenario that may not have been as egregious, or and maybe the child isn't dead as well. So again, it depends on the facts of the case and how serious or egregious they may be. Each case is individual. In some cases, we may charge the second-degree murder, as in the case that I just read about, or in some cases, because of the facts and the history and everything else surrounding the case, we may charge a lesser charge.
What can you say to families in Wayne County who do have guns in their homes right now?
Again, make sure that they're unloaded and secure, and please don't think that your child doesn't know you have a gun, number one, or number two, doesn't know where it is. And again, it's just about being responsible. Again, these are a series of cases, a class of case scenarios that are completely preventable. These 8 children should not have lost their lives or been seriously injured or killed others. So this is something that's very practical. It's easy to understand. The inherent dangerous nature of a gun should alert everybody and give everybody red flags that they should do the normally expected things. Again, it's not rocket science to secure these guns and unload them.
As a prosecutor and a parent, how troubling is this for you personally to have to go and prosecute these cases and, as you said, these 8 children not have to die?
It's very troubling. There's some people will say, and maybe even some of you will say, why are we charging someone who's 80 years old? Why are we charging grandparents who's 65 years old? When you look, well, first of all, the victims in these cases, those that did not have the good luck, for lack of a better word, to survive, won't reach their 5th birthday, won't reach their 10th birthday, let alone their 80th birthday. We have to be responsible. When we decide to either have, bear, adopt, or look after children, we have to be responsible. We have to know what is in our homes that is inherently dangerous. And even though you may not have a firearm in your own home, again, we have to be more diligent to make sure the places where we regularly send our children also don't have unsecured guns in their homes. Because in some of these scenarios that I talked about, they weren't even at their own homes. They were at other homes, and some of these children didn't come back to their families ever, even though they may have been responsible, the parents, of having gun safety in their own homes. We have to be more diligent about where we send our children, whether it be this or any other charges, other things that can happen to our children. So it should be, I hope this is going to be a wake-up call. I don't have a lot of press conferences, as you know, and I think this is an important enough issue, especially the summer is coming. Children will soon be out of school, and children will just by virtue of not being in school, will be home more often. Or maybe there'll be other caregivers' homes because they're not in school, and others will be taking care of their children. So I'm hoping this is a wake-up call. 1 is too many, 8 is certainly a lot, and we don't want it to turn into a bigger problem, public health issue, than it already is when it's preventable.
And here's a quick question. At the beginning, you hit the number 8 in talking about the number of shootings. Could you hit that again one more time for me, just so I have some clarification?
In the last, you have the document before you, and I went back to December of 2014. Okay. In the last 17 months, if my math is correct, we've had 8 of these such incidences. Some of them are still under review, and we have not charged or not charged them. We're still reviewing them.
So you've heard Chief James Craig has gone on the news recommending citizens arm themselves legally and responsibly. Do you agree with the things you've heard him say, or do you have a different?
I like Chief Craig. I like him a lot. I like working with him. I think he's one of the better chiefs that Detroit has had, but I don't agree with that course of action.
And you mentioned that these guns are legally bought, so there's
most of them. And if you look at the research, there's some very good research on this issue where there have been journalists like yourselves who have done exhaustive studies of this issue across this country. And the research shows that overwhelmingly these guns are legally owned and legally controlled. So we haven't even touched the part of this where we're talking about an illegal firearm. That's another whole ball of wax in itself. But if we're talking about people who have gone through and are following the law and have registered their guns and legally have them in their home for whatever reason, and I'm not knocking gun ownership. I'm just saying that gun ownership should be responsible. It's just like driving a car. When we drive a car, we have to be responsible. So when we possess weapons, we need to be responsible. So I've forgotten your question now, but basically this should be a wake-up call. I veered off to something else. I'm sorry.
So what are the excuses you're getting from people who are in these situations?
Again, we do our talking in court. We'll tell you what our allegations are that we based our charging decisions on, but as to what their reasoning is and what they've said will come out in court, if at all.
But I assume it's because they're saying, what good is a gun if it's locked up and I can't get to it quickly?
I have heard that, and many other explanations for having guns in their home. And again, I'm not knocking gun ownership, but I'm saying that there should be responsible gun ownership. And if we have responsible gun ownership and people take responsibility for bringing these items into their home, which they're lawfully entitled to do, I have no problem with that. But if they have children in the home or young teens or people at all, it should be secure. It should be secured, and it should be unloaded.
Why do you disagree with the chief when there are so many responsible gun owners? Why do you disagree with him on this point when we've had so many cases of people defending themselves in their own
Reasonable
home?
people can disagree.
Ms. Worthy, did you touch on legislation at all?
Yes, I did. I thought I talked about that.
Yeah,
But
what legislation, what would you like to see?
I would like to see, and again, we have been able to craft our existing laws in these cases, as you can see, but we would like to see, or personally I would like to see, legislation that frankly has criminal penalties for people who negligently secure their guns, where a child has access to them and someone is killed or injured. I think there should be varying degrees. And I haven't sat down and wrote it. It's an idea, and that's not an original idea, but it's certainly an idea that I think that we should look at, the Michigan legislature should look at.
Always some political pushback, I would have to imagine, from gun advocates. Is there a concern that your message being for public safety, gun safety, could be lost in that rhetoric?
I would hope that gun safety is not an issue that anyone would disagree with. So, frankly, I would hope not. There's always political issues and setbacks and scenarios on everything in life. Even what you want to sit down and have for breakfast, someone will have a political problem with that. But I would hope that we would all agree that there should be gun safety, especially when it comes to children. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. We may disagree with how we get there. We may disagree with what we do about it. But I'm hoping we can all start from that same place. All right.
Since your press conferences are so sparse, can you give us an update on Kevin Matthews and Janet Wilson shootings?
I thought I said was to talk about these cases, but no, I don't have any comment on cases that are currently under investigation. And I have a problem when situations are frankly leaked to the press and the facts that they have may not even be accurate. So I'm not going to comment on anything that we have under review. It's irresponsible, and I think it's unethical. All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank